What is going on, guys? It's me, Max, back with another episode of the channel. In this one, we are going to be looking at Philippines versus Paraguay for lifestyle, taxes, residency, business and property investing, and we'll give you a bit of a rundown on these sectors and which one that we think is better and who it's better for. So first of all, looking at Paraguay, these countries are pretty different, right? Paraguay is a landlocked and small nation in the heart of South America with around 8 million people. The Philippines is an archipelago of islands with around 115 million people that stretches across part of the Southeast Asia. So the countries are pretty different. Their languages are pretty different as well. Obviously, the Philippines has Tagalog and a number of indigenous languages on each individual island, like Cebuano or Bisaya, but they speak English at a very, very, very high level, whereas Paraguay obviously speaks Spanish and Guarani, or mixed together, you can call it Chopra, but I mean, they don't speak a lot of English in Paraguay. So first off, looking at them both, the languages are different parts of the world, very different terrains and very different cultures. The one thing that they do have in common is that they were both part of the Spanish Empire at one point, because for the people that don't know, the Philippines was actually named after King Philip of Spain a long, long time ago, right? So with regards to lifestyle, first of all, let's get into that. So I would personally say out of the two of them that there's a lot more going on in the Philippines. Now, with Paraguay, most of the gringos are centered living in Asuncion. We've got some in San Bernardino, some out in other areas, but the majority of the gringos are in Asuncion, with a few sprinkled in other places like San Bernardino or perhaps Encarnacion, but the majority of them are based in Asuncion. Now, whereas with the Philippines, you've got a lot of them living in places like Makati, you've got them living in places like Cebu, you can live in Bonifacio, Global City, you can live in all those destinations. So in terms of a lifestyle, for me personally, first and foremost, I think that the Philippines does offer a better lifestyle. There is more stuff going on in the Philippines. You can walk out your door if you're an English speaker like me and obviously talk to people straight away. If you're looking for ladies, if you're looking for girls, obviously it depends whether you prefer Asian women or Latinas, because they're very different types, right? But the Philippine girls are very polite. They already speak English, and most of the people within Manila have the ability to speak English. So right out the gate, living between the two countries, and at least my experience was, because I didn't speak Spanish when I came down to Paraguay, is that in terms of lifestyle, the Philippines does offer you a lot more, because not only does everybody already speak English if that's your first language, but they're very, very warm, kind people, as are the Paraguayans. I'm not saying the Paraguayans aren't, but the Filipinos are very warm, kind people, very welcoming, and a lot of the signs and things in the supermarkets and other things are already in English. So that's a massive leg up if you're coming from an English-speaking country. A lot of the brands that you can get in the supermarket are American ones, and there's even a lot of American cars in the streets and things like that. So for a country in Asia, the Philippines is tremendously Americanized. So even for me as an English guy going over, I felt pretty comfortable there straight away, and it was much easier to adjust than being in Paraguay. Also with the Philippines, I will say that you've got beaches. Now, some people are going to say there's beaches in Paraguay that go into the river, but I'm talking about real beaches that are on the coast near the sea, right? I'm not talking about on some river or something, okay? So in terms of the lifestyle, because the Philippines has so much of a variety of things, it has these ginormous mega cities like Manila, and then it has the sister city Cebu, where you can go, which is fantastic. Some really beautiful areas around there, some great beaches. If you start going out to different places on that island where Cebu is. So in terms of the lifestyle, just to be completely honest with you, despite me loving Paraguay, for the country prizing freedom very highly, first category, lifestyle, we've got a win for the Philippines due to all the things I've just mentioned. More stuff going on within all the different cities, a wider variety of regions you can go to, different terrain, very attractive beaches, different vibes that everyone likes that you can get there. You can live in Manila, you can live in Cebu, you can live near the beaches. There's just a whole lot more variety of things going on in the country, different cities and things that you have access to, as well as they already speak in English, which for me and anyone from my country or English speaking countries is a huge bonus, right? So that's a win for the Philippines. Category 2, let's look at property. So when it comes to property in Paraguay, you have a pretty good run with the property market, right? You can buy land, you can buy houses, you can buy apartments, you can buy commercial premises. They're very open to foreigners with regards to this sort of thing. And obviously Paraguay is a mestizo society, it's mixed, right? When one of the dictators in the past made all the people that were indigenous and foreigners kind of like mixed together so that, you know, it created a mixed mestizo race, right? Now, because of Paraguay having this kind of background and being a country that's of mixed race, as are many in Latin America, it's much more welcoming to foreigners. So it's like if you want to invest in property or buy property, you're going to be very much treated like a Paraguayan. There are some restrictions about buying properties near the border, which are very minor, and I've heard there are some ways to get around them. But on paper, you're very much going to be treated like a Paraguayan, and things are just very smooth. Whereas in the Philippines, when it comes to buying property, you don't get treated like even if you get residency in the Philippines, you don't get treated like a Filipino ever when it comes to doing transactions. So, for example, if you want to buy land in the Philippines, it's very restricted. Foreigners are not allowed to buy land. Most of the time, guys end up doing something dodgy where they buy it through like a lawyer who owns a company or something that's structured a certain way, or they end up putting it in the wife's name. I don't know about anyone else out there, but I wouldn't put things like that in my wife's name or in a foreign lady's name, because all it takes is one argument and, you know, she's got control of your property. Call me paranoid, but, you know, so you can't buy land in the Philippines. It's not an easy thing to do. And when it comes to buying condos, you can only buy apartments that I think are beyond the first floor in buildings that are 50% or 51% owned by Filipinos, which to me, these laws, I understand it's a bit protectionist, but they don't make the country very attractive for investing in property in. It just makes things kind of a headache and a ball ache. For investing in property, that's a clear win for Paraguay. The Philippines, in my opinion, all the restrictions they have just makes it unviable. Now, when it comes to doing business in both countries, I will say that the Philippines is a lot more developed than Paraguay in terms of the amount of businesses that they have there and the variety of businesses, right? The business in the Philippines, some of them are like giant mega corporations, absolutely huge, and the economy in general is just a lot larger. So when it comes to running a business, like even though the Philippines might be more economically fertile ground, when you're looking at the standpoint of the population of consumers you've got there and like how much the overall economy is worth, and there's more money flying about over there just because of those things. But the Philippines also kind of makes it a pain in the ass when it comes to foreigners getting into certain businesses. Now, I mentioned previously that back in 2020, I was going over there to set up a company. Now, the company I was going to set up was a BPO company, which was a business process outsourcing company, recruitment outsourcing company, since I had been running a recruitment company for a number of years, and that was the sector that I was looking to get into. However, I wasn't planning on doing any recruitment inside of the Philippines. It was all just working with recruitment companies in the UK and America and outsourcing their recruitment processes to the Philippines, right? So we would have been recruiting within the United States and the UK. But every time I went to see a business consultant or a lawyer over there to get this rolling, they initially misunderstood me and thought I wanted to open a normal recruitment company in the Philippines. Now, you might say, well, what difference does that make? Well, I'll tell you what difference it makes. In the Philippines, they have something called the Foreign Equity Negative List, right? Which gives restrictions on how much bit of a business foreigners can own within certain industries. And because the Philippines is one of the number one exporters in the world of sending their people overseas for work, they are very restrictive around recruitment companies, right? So I think with a recruitment company, a foreigner can only earn, that's recruiting Filipinos for things, a foreigner can only actually own about 30 to 40% of the company. I haven't checked in years, but I had to go through this list, double check, and I had to have about 3 different meetings with all these lawyers. And even then, initially, they all thought I wanted to open a recruitment company in the Philippines. So getting the point through to them and then actually finding out the truth behind this took a little bit of time, because I was being told about 5 different things when I was trying to do business there. Whereas in Paraguay, there aren't too many restrictions on what kind of businesses foreigners can own, right? There are minor ones to do with certain sensitive things, but relatively it's pretty open. So it's like if you want to come to Paraguay and form a company and open a business, the whole process is much quicker, much more streamlined, and there isn't this long list of regulations, restrictions, and other things that you have to contend with. So despite the economy in the Philippines being bigger and better, I'm going to give Paraguay the win when it comes to doing business because the process is just easier to get going. It's more streamlined. Okay, so the next one on the list is residency. Now, one of the things that I'm going to say initially about the Philippines to do with this is, despite the Philippines having a bit of a more complicated on paper process, I actually have known people that have lived in the Philippines for, on paper they say you can only do this for 3 years, but I know people that have lived in the Philippines for around 5 years, just continuously renewing the visas over and over and over again, the tourist visas that went on. Now, the government doesn't seem to care too much about this. And, you know, for the most recent years and all the time that I've sort of been going back and forward, it's been a pretty easy thing to do that you can go in and just continually, obviously, renew your visa. But I mean, this could change at any point with this, you know, renewal the tourist visas. And it could end up getting a lot more difficult, like Thailand. But I mean, historically, this has been something that people have done for the last, you know, couple of decades, and it's been relatively easy to do. But getting actual residency in terms of on paper in the Philippines is a lot more of a complicated process. There are different options to do with, like, you know, being married or having children over there, or even making an investment that I think is about $75,000 now. But I mean, actually getting residency in the Philippines isn't the most straightforward process unless you're married to a Filipino or you have kids, or you're willing to part with a big chunk of cash to do an investment, right? So it does make getting any kind of like permanent or semi-permanent documentation on paper that allows you to be in the country for a long period of time a bit more difficult and a bit more complicated. Whereas with Paraguay, you literally just have to come down with the documents that you need. You have to come with your birth certificate, apostilled, your criminal record apostilled, and then have a few other documents made in Paraguay. Get your temporary residency applied for, get that through, and then after 2 years you can convert that to a permanent residency, right? So when it comes to getting residency, Paraguay has the Philippines beat by eons on this, because you know that once you've got your temporary residency in Paraguay, that you're pretty good for 2 years, and once you've got your permanent one, well, you're very good then, right, for a very long time. So that's the difference. Paraguay just makes the whole process to do with getting residency and knowing how you stand within the country a lot more quicker, easier, and less burdensome. Whereas with the Philippines, if you go the route of being on the tourist visas over and over again, the government could, you know, put the foot down on that at any point and change it. And then, you know, or you're kind of left in an uncertain situation where you're not sure about your future. The only other alternatives that you have with the ones that I mentioned, with the spousal visas and the investment, you can do those. But obviously, when you're comparing the kind of commitment between marrying someone or investing a large amount of money, or parting with a few grand in Paraguay to pay someone like us or other people to do your residency paperwork, Paraguay is a clear and easy win on this one, right? So this is a win for Paraguay. Okay, so when it comes to taxes, obviously in Paraguay, you have got 10% personal income tax, right? You've got 10% corporation tax if you open a corporation here, and then there is no foreign income tax, right? So the tax system in Paraguay is pretty reasonable, it's pretty friendly, and let's be honest, compared to most of our Western countries, a lot of us can't complain about how that's structured. So when it comes to the Philippines to do with taxes, you've got personal income tax that is like on a sliding scale that ladders up depending on how much you earn. So that can be up to 35%. And if you were a foreigner running a business inside that country, paying yourself a wage through that business and earning the money in the Philippines, you could be paying up to 35% in personal income tax, which is pretty high, right? By my standards and by a lot of people's standards, it's high. You don't want to pay that amount. Now, with regards to the corporations, you can pay between 20 and 25%, depending on the size of the corporation and a few other things, right? So that's a 35% personal tax rate and a 20 to 25% corporate tax rate. So overall, in the Philippines, the taxes are higher. The one caveat to this is the Philippines also has the same rule that Paraguay has, whereas for foreign residents, it's a territorial tax system, so you don't have to pay income on money that's earned abroad. So this does boost the Philippines, in my opinion, in terms of the tax standing and what I think of it with regards to that. But overall, Paraguay wins on taxes again, hands down, because it's got the same rule to do with the territorial tax system for the foreign residents, and then it just has lower taxes in general on everything else. So that's a clear win for Paraguay again. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. If you need residency or any of the services or ebooks we offer, go to our website, freecitizen.co.